Hey everyone, I hope you're enjoying your Memorial weekend. This is Tracy-Ann from T.A.S.K family. I thank everyone who's joining me to discuss our wonderful guest today to talk about autism awareness, just to bring acknowledgement to our mothers, acknowledgement to all the hard work that they do. Our guest for today is an amazing mom. She does so much. I thank her for being a part of our Mommy Box, her amazing t-shirt. We're going to talk about her company. I'm excited to speak to her today. You know, our boxes, our subscription box, highlight special needs parents, highlight special need products, and we do for not just special needs families, but families as a whole. Of course, you know, the voice of our special need parents, you want to hear their story, and that's why our subscription box was created, is to hear their story, hear their journeys, to hear where they're coming from. Of course, I told you I'm not in front of a person of camera, but you know, I started to lose my voice. I started to experience a loss of voice. The one thing that God gave me was the voice of advocacy for parents, advocacy for children, and I was losing my voice. So I decided, instead of being in the back burner, as I call it, behind the scenes, you know, I'm always the one that they say I'm the creator. I create things. I come and decide what our products are going to be. I, decide what our stories are going to be on. But it's time for me to step out in the forefront and share our stories, and also get stories of different wonderful people that we have on this journey. So we're waiting for her to come on. As we wait for her to come on, I'm excited. I'm really excited about this conversation that we're going to have with her. She is on our IG. Here she is.
Just request to join.
Okay, you have requested to join.
Yes. There you go.
I'm excited. Just press the request to join button. Hey!
Hi. Hi.
Thank you so much for joining us. How are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you?
I am awesome. I thank you for joining our T.A.S.K family. Tell the people who you are.
So my name is Mariam. On IG, I'm known as Black Autism Mom. I'm a mom of 4. I have 3 girls, 1 boy. I'm also a business owner, a small business owner, and I'm a mom to autistic children. So.
Well, thank you for sharing that information and being in our mom's subscription box. I am excited about your t-shirt. I saw this t-shirt and I'm like, I have to get this mom a part of our journey, to hear her story and to find out why she made this t-shirt. I'm just excited. How did you feel when you got our request to join our subscription box?
Excited. First time I got to anything like there's like a little delay. Okay, it's gone. But yeah, I'm super excited. And this shirt right here is my baby, because this is kind of what started everything. I never thought to do what I'm doing now. I never thought to really sell shirts or anything like that. But 2020 was a rough year for everyone. We had the pandemic. A lot of things were going on in the news that really caused you to pay attention. Murders, all the struggles that Black people went through. Even though we've been going through stuff, I feel like 2020 really made us pay attention.
Yeah.
Because we were all at home.
Yes.
So I just started thinking about what it means for me to be a parent to an autistic child, an autistic son.
Autistic son.
Yes, autistic son
who's
who's nonverbal.
Nonverbal.
Yeah. Yeah, so and I'm obsessed with superheroes, like obsessed. So that's how this came about. I just came up with it. Not your average superhero. I'm a Black Autism Mom because I feel like as Black mothers, well, any mother, we're going to protect our children.
Yes.
It's more about being a superhero to my children. Like, so that's why the logo is faceless, because she represents like every Black mom, because it's
Power.
Even though, yes.
Everything. I mean, resilience. I saw your t-shirt and I was like, I have to have this in the box. I said, it said everything to me, because I know being an autistic mom, you have to, it's not for the weak, as they say. It's really not for the weak. You have to be strong. You have to be their advocate. And also, we tend to neglect self. We neglect our own needs, our own self, sleepless nights. And I really want you to share with people. I have some questions for you. Tell us about your journey, the initial diagnosis of your son. How did you react to it? How did you deal with that, hearing autism?
So for me, since my son was like 1 year old, because he did everything like early. He started walking early. He was already starting to say like some words. And then at 1 year old, he kind of just regressed. Mm-hmm. And then I started noticing a difference in my son. And I talked to his pediatrician about it. Mm-hmm. But she was like, oh, this is okay. It's nothing new. Just wait. She kept telling me wait. Months go by, tell me wait. So I'm like, no. This is my third child, because he's my third, and I'm like,
something is wrong.
Not the same. Something is different. Mm-hmm. So I got rid of her. I made an appointment with another doctor who was more willing to listen, and that's how she got me to a place called Strong Start, and then he got evaluated and he got his diagnosis. So I was already ready, because I already noticed something, and everybody kept telling me, no, you're just tripping. I'm like, no, I'm not. So
how did that
I was already expecting it.
How did that make you feel? Because for me, I feel your same journey. Everyone told me, no, you're analyzing him. It's in your head. How did that make you feel when, the doctor's telling you, no one was co-signing what you were seeing initially? How did that make you feel?
It frustrated me. Mm-hmm. I was frustrated, because I'm like, I know my child. I'm with my child every day. So you're not going to tell me that I'm just making something out of nothing. Mm-hmm. It was very frustrating, which is why I just got rid of his pediatrician. And I'm just like, and then when we got the diagnosis, I felt vindicated, because I'm like, I knew it, Mm-hmm. So yeah.
You felt a sense of relief, because I know for us, and especially women of color, we see it, we know what's going on. For us, we got to push back. It was like, oh, he's doing fine. I said, but he's 1 and he's reading a book. This doesn't make no sense. He was just doing all this stuff early. And I said, you heard him read the book back to us? This doesn't make no sense. He did everything early, and then a silence.
Right.
Black eye, no more speaking, no more eye contact. Everything just went dark.
Yeah.
He had a smile on his face, but he wasn't communicating. Something was wrong. And for us, oftentimes, we feel like our voice is not being heard. And this is why it's important for me. I like to be I'm the shy person, I like to be in the background. I had to come and let our voice be heard, because I felt like so many Black moms, so many authors, so many parents of autistic children, we put out these materials wanting to have our voice heard, wanted to share in our journey, to say, this is what happened. No one was listening to me, to help other parents, who are going through. There's so many parents now who no one is listening to them. No one's listening to them. And I tell them, I said, if you can have a second opinion, if your gut is telling you something is wrong, you're entitled to a second opinion. I know for me, it was a fight between me and my husband. He was like, oh, you labeling my child? He was very angry. Everyone was angry. My mama, everybody was angry at me. No one wanted to talk to me, but in my gut, Mama Bear,
Yeah.
came out, and I can see and I can relate to this superhero that came
Yeah.
out in this t-shirt,
Yeah.
that you just came out protecting your son. And
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. I love it. So you got the diagnosis. Now you're on this journey with your son. Tell us more about it.
Whew. We well, so right before I got the diagnosis, I had already put him in daycare, because me and my ex-husband, we were both working, so I had put him in daycare, and the first day they told me to come pick him up. And told me that he was jumping on the tables, doing all kinds of wild stuff. Jumping on tables, he wasn't listening to anybody, and they were like, you might want to get him evaluated or whatever. And I was like, I'm already in the process of that. But after, it was just trying to put him in the right place. Like my son, by the time he was 5 years old, he had already been in four different schools.
Wow.
So it's like ever since he got diagnosed, it was just trying to find him an environment where he was comfortable, where people were treating him fairly, where he was accepted for who he was, and people really enjoyed teaching him, because I've had so many experiences with teachers who it just seemed like they didn't like my son, or they didn't like teaching sons. I've had experiences with teachers who neglected him to the point where I was picking him up from school and he was in the middle of the street. Like, I dropped him off at school, picking him up, and he's in the middle of the street, almost hit him because he's just out there in the middle of the street. Like, it's just a lot of hurtful experience.
A lot of hurtful experience. And I feel you, because every autistic mom I've talked to is the same thing. I think Trey was in like 5 different schools. I felt like no one cared. No one would want to deal with him. And I'm like, oh my God, he was the sweetest little thing, but he got agitated. Sensory went off. You know, I couldn't find the appropriate placement for him. And I remember giving birth to my daughter. I think it was a hot weather. I gave birth to my daughter in July, and my husband coming to the hospital actually, with my son in a thick uniform sweater. Had to bring him downstairs to the ER because he had suffered heat.
Oh.
At the moment I just gave birth to my daughter in the hospital, I started to like hemorrhage and bleed because I was crying hysterically, seeing my child, who was nonverbal, unable to say that he was hot, in a hot classroom, had on his sweater all day in a hot classroom. And I started to bleed, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm hemorrhaging. I just gave birth to, and my husband had to go downstairs in the ER with my son. And I'm like, oh my God, how many other mothers dealt with this with their children? You're entrusting these schools, these caretakers to, and because they're not trained to deal with our children, they're not trained to deal with an autistic child, they don't get the services that they need. Now, tell me about your approach when you're getting services, because I know for me it was very hard. It was very hard to get services. It was very hard to navigate. And I'm like, okay, I'm an educated Black woman, and I'm like, wait a minute, what about those mothers that don't have the information, that don't know that they can rule out or get a second opinion, or who can't say, okay, I need to remove my child from this setting and get them into a better setting? What was your experience like?
Whew. Honestly, everything that I went through, it's sad to say, but I had to learn along just living it.
Yes.
I didn't know, like, before joining like the internet community, the autism community on the internet, I really didn't have too mmany people I could lean on, ask questions. A lot of people don't seem to know anything, and I think it's really sad that that the information isn't out there. Like, you just have to ask someone who is also in the same position you are, and a lot of times they don't know. So I just had to research and try to find help.
And it's downheartening because in our community we don't talk about it.
Yeah.
We don't talk about it. We don't talk about autism. We don't talk about mental health. We don't talk about services. So for us, you know, I needed to go out there because our kids are not getting the timely services. We're not getting tested timely. We, even though I had the information, I felt like I was on this waiting list and no one was hearing my voice. No one was hearing what I was saying. And I felt like we have to constantly be fighting and pushing down these doors and these barriers for our children. And I said, oh my God, how many other parents are experiencing it? So that's why we decided to create T.A.S.K. That's why we decided to even create our subscription box for those parents that you're newly diagnosed. What do you do next? What is out there? For us, hearing these stories, hearing these experiences, it helps them to not deal with their denial. I know I went into a depression state when I got my son's diagnosis. Hearing it and living through it, I'm like, oh my God, my child has autism. And it took me a while. I tell women, I tell families, you have to mourn that child that you envision that you're going to have. You have to mourn. It's like a mourning process. If you don't mourn them, then you're stuck in that phase saying, okay, what happened to that child? The expectation of what your child should be. But I feel like I got even better. My son is amazing. Yeah. He taught me patience. He taught me so many things. Now we're dealing with the transition from the wonderful little boy. Now we're transitioning into the teenager.
Yeah.
How has that transition been for you? For me, ooh,
it's been rough. Right now, I'm just trying to relearn my son because he wants to be more independent, but he doesn't know how to express a lot of what he's trying to communicate. He just started using AAC device a while ago, but we're still like learning how to navigate through that. And because I think testosterone plays a part, preteen stage and all that, he just doesn't know maybe doesn't have an understanding of where all these feelings are coming from and how to handle them. So we've been doing a lot of aggression. A lot of aggression.
They changed because of the hormones.
Yeah.
I saw my sweet boy get so aggressive. He got frustrated. He had this buildup of hormones, not knowing not knowing how to say how he's feeling, how to address how he's feeling, frustration. And I would say to him, Trey, what is wrong? He would get so frustrated and bothered. And I'm like, oh my God, I can't, he wants the independence. Let's talk about the independence. They want to do things on their own. And it's the most scariest thing to even think about it. COVID has taught me so much about him. I got to learn him at a stage where COVID hit. The aggression, the attitude. And it's not that he wants to have an attitude with me. He just doesn't know how to formulate it in words how he's feeling. He doesn't know how to communicate that, he wants to do something. And, for me, I felt like I had to be mama bear. And I've learned now, Trey's now 16. I've learned to try to let go. I've tried to give him a little room, a little breathing space. We did a little walk the other day. He said, oh, why can't I walk to McDonald's? I was like, walk to McDonald's? I'm not ready for that. I'm not ready for you to walk anywhere by yourself. But I said, okay, let's do the self-training together, and then we're gonna have to get you some services that you're gonna learn this on your own, because if this, I don't want him to be a flight runner. That's another thing we have to think about. So I looked at Angel Sense, and I started to look at different devices where it could tack onto his clothes, and to say, okay, you want to learn how to cross the street to go play basketball. I had to figure out to let go a little bit, to breathe a little bit. And it's going to take us a while, but I did walk to the store with him and said, okay, let's try to order this burger that you want and fries, with my heart in my chest, because we have to try to let go a little bit. Our scares of this world and our little black, brown baby boys, how the world see them, it is scary. And for us, we have to look at his emotion. He's no longer that cute little boy everybody finds cute. He's now a black man, and that is scary. He's a black man with a deep voice, So now they have these deep voices, black men sucking hormones. And it's just for us to continue to try to get them back centered. For me, I'm going to be honest, I initially did not like ABA. And I got on a list. I got called off the list during the time of COVID. And I said, let me try it again, because at first it didn't work for us. And when I tried it again, the person that we got, she was very sweet. And we talked about the issues he was having. And it did help us. He was, 13, 14 doing ABA for the first time, because we tried it and I didn't like it, took him out. We did it for 13, 14. And we worked on his communication skills. How can he communicate his feelings, how he's feeling? And it helped. We did it for 6 months, and it did help. I did see a difference in it. I had some, feelings towards it, because we had difficult worker prior, and I was like, no, I'm not dealing with this. But I tried it again, and it did help him. It did help him. I had a different agency, and now he's communicating. He still has some aggression, but we're learning how to deal with it better. We're learning how to deal with it better, his emotions. But it is a hard journey. And how do you feel about the independence and
well, for me, my son isn't just autistic, he also has ADHD. So for him, he is an eloper, and he was taking some stuff for ADHD, but because of behavioral changes, I just let that go until they can find something that's better suiting for him. Mm-hmm. But so for independence, I try to let him do a lot. I mean, he does a lot by himself. He likes to make his own sandwiches. The thing that I'm scared of is when we're outdoors, because we walk my youngest to and from school. He doesn't, because he's I guess he feels like he's older now. He doesn't want me to hold his hand like I used to. And sometimes he'll just take off running. Yeah. And he doesn't understand the dangers of cars and stuff like that. Because sometimes he'll just run right there. And I'm like, stop! Looking like a mad woman and stuff. Yeah. So independence is good. It's scary. But it scares me because he doesn't really have a full understanding of the dangers around him. Yeah. So that makes it scary to me. So
yes.
Yeah. And as far as ABA, I did not have a good experience with it. I didn't like how my son changed. I feel like they tried to suppress a lot of who he is. And I guess in a sense, I get it, because the society we live in, the society we live in, it's almost better if you fit in. But at the same time, you want your child to be who they want to be. And that's just and that's my experience. Because even when I first got his diagnosis, and I don't know if you ever got it, but I got this 100-day kit of Autism Speaks. And I started feeling like it was my fault, and the foods I was eating, the vaccines I got, all that type of stuff. But as I got into the autism community a lot more, and I started learning more about autism, then I realized that some of my other children also have characteristic autistic traits. I have some autistic characteristics. So it's would I really want someone to suppress who I am? That's my issue with ABA. I wish I understand what the purpose is, but I just wish there was a different approach to where you can still feel good about yourself.
And I think, for me, dealing with different ones, because the ones that I dealt with, the last one, it did not suppress who he was. And I like that about them. They focus, if he wanted to stim, and when he's getting excited, because my son still stims, he gets excited. When he gets excited, he has, they didn't suppress him. And I like that about them. They just say, okay, let's, they allowed him to kind of take control of the sessions. It wasn't them kind of leading. it was different. It really was different from the last one that we dealt with, that they put him in this little rigid box. It wasn't like that this time with them. It was totally different. I really liked what they did. His therapist was very personal, and he thrived. He wasn't, I didn't feel like he was changing. I felt he was growing a little bit more, that even his expression, he was able to express certain things to me. He was like, "You're not listening to me." And I was like, "I'm not," you know. And before, he never was able to tell me I wasn't listening to him. And he says, "Well," and he says, like he would get out of the car, and I'm like, "But a car is coming. You're doing these things." And he says, "Well, you didn't tell." And I was like, "Okay, let's walk through the process of getting out of the car." I said, "Cars are coming from this side. You can get hurt." And he's like, "Well, you're not listening to me. You're yelling. You're like, wait a minute, but you're not explaining anything." And I'm like, "Okay." So I changed the way how I talk to him. They helped me to change. I was like, "So how should I say it to you?" He was like, "Wait, Trey." And I was like, "Okay." So I tried those things. He is communicating better to me. I'm like, "You're running across, Trey." So I got the angel sense to calm myself down, because I was like, "Okay, no, I'm not going to go crazy. I don't want to be running on the street." We started practicing walking. I started to walk with him more. "You don't want to hold my hand. I have to still hold your hand because you're not going to run." But I had to explain to him. I said, "I'm holding your hand because I love you. I didn't make it, I said, I know you're independent. You're walking tall." And I made it be like, "Okay, your mommy's protector because you're taller than me. So I'm holding on to you." But in the process, I was explaining to him safely what I'm holding on to, and gradually letting him go, gradually allowing him to walk on his own. It took me a while, but I still was holding on to him. But my approach to him was different. I realized that if I smothered him, it wouldn't help him. And I was smothering Trey. I was smothering him. I felt like I wasn't allowing him to grow. I wasn't allowing him to be himself. And I had to let go, because I was like, "Okay, I want independence for him. I want him to have certain things. What am I doing?" Everybody decided they want to ring the door today. What am I doing to really help him let grow, and for him to become independent, and for him to grow as an individual? But I thank you for sharing your feelings towards it. That pre-stage to adulthood, as I tell them, 18 and 21, autism doesn't end at that age. They need more services. They need everything. And that's why we become advocate. Why did you want to become an advocate? Tell us about your advocacy.
To help my son's voice be heard. Or even just to help other autistics, because a lot of times autistic voices aren't heard. And I know, like for my son, who is nonverbal, he is not in a place right now where he can advocate for himself outside of our household. There was a time when he was in school, because I had to take him out of school and I homeschool now, that he wasn't getting the services that he was supposed to be receiving in school. He wasn't getting his OT. He wasn't getting his speech, any of that. He wasn't able to tell me that. A teacher pulled me to the side and was like, "Hey, I just want to let you know your son has not been getting the services for months now." So things like that need to be taken care of, because at the end of the day, even though all these services are out there for our children, for autistic adults to some extent, they're not advertised. People don't really try to help us get them. We have to dig and find what we can get.
You have to fight.
Exactly.
We have to
Exactly.
I feel like we're constantly fighting for services for our kids. We're constantly. So this platform allows us to tell each other about the services that we know. This platform allows us to say, "Well, this school is great." The fact that he wasn't getting his service is a disservice to your child.
Yeah.
It's a disservice. It's disheartening that he wasn't getting what he needs. And I know for my son, he became frustrated, and I finally realized that he wasn't getting his speech. He wasn't getting his OT, and we had to remove him from that school that he was going, because he wasn't getting what he needs. And then he became aggressive. And then they wanted to write in his papers, "aggressive teen." And I said, "Aggression?" I said, "That is not in his nature." I had to fight for them to remove the term aggression. He couldn't get into the other schools because aggression was on his IEP. Aggression was in his
exactly what
and
I'm
he
saying.
was not nothing like that. He was aggressive because he was frustrated that he wasn't getting services. He
Yeah.
became aggressive. And I had to fight. I remember fighting and saying, but he, you know, he's a nice child. He's always smiling. Even when he couldn't verbalize, he was always smiling and stimming. He was never aggressive. And I remember taking him to that school that he's at now. And, you know, they said, but we don't accept aggressive kids. And I said, to be honest, that's not my child. I don't know what's on that diagnosis. Then what they put in that report is incorrect. And she said, let me sit down and speak to him. And she said, Mom, he's not nothing like what was written about him. He's smiling and this aggression, but our children, our babies tend to be labeled. And then
Yes.
we can't get them in the appropriate services. And then we become labeled too because they see our advocacy as aggression as well. We're not aggressive. We're just passionate about our children.
Exactly.
We're passionate about them getting their services. And I feel like we're constantly fighting. And I'm glad we're having these conversations for those mothers who are just starting or feeling overwhelmed, who don't know what to do. And no, it is a fight. It is a fight.
Yeah.
You know,
And that's
if you're
what I
not
tell
built
people.
to fight, you're fighting for your babies. You're fighting for them.
And it never stops. That's why I had to pull my son out of school, because he got a new teacher and she was describing a boy I did not know. And she was just like, and then she says, I thought he was one of those autistics that doesn't do anything. And I was like, oh, no, you're not going to teach my son. You're not going to teach my son. So I pulled him out. And I couldn't even afford to really homeschool. But it's like, what am I supposed to do? Leave him in your care? Like, no. So I took him out of school.
Listen,
and
how people,
she's a teacher for autistic children. That's the baffling part.
The spectrum is so broad.
Yeah.
Even if they're nonverbal, they feel, they hear, they know what you're saying about them.
Exactly.
You know, I had a teacher tell my son that, and it was recent, you know, he was in a fashion show and he couldn't open his dress bag. The teacher tore the dress bag. And he was so scared of this teacher because she was so verbally abusive to the other kids that he couldn't tell her that the bag is broken, so I can't get my suit out. And it's not until I gave him another suit, and it's not until the fashion show was over, he said, Mom, let me tell you what happened. And I was appalled. I said, she said to him, and she was talking with other teachers, don't tell me this boy doesn't know how to put on his clothes. And in my mind, I said, oh my God, how are you working with our children that are artistic? Even if they don't know how to put on their clothes, you're there to give them empathy and to help them. You're there to help them, to teach them, to show them. Maybe that's something that he needs to be on his IEP to help him. I know for my son, he couldn't button his clothes for a long time. He had a lot of OT issues. And it's baffling to me that we have these people around our children that are not giving them the empathy and the care. And then we have these schools that are allowing these people to be a part of our children's day to day. You know, when will that stop? And this is why we're advocating for this. You know, because we are their voice. We are their voice.
About the ones that don't even follow through on the IEPs.
Oh.
The teachers that don't follow through on the IEPs, and let's not even start on those.
Let's not even. We will be on this live forever. We would be on this live forever.
I'm telling you. But that's what advocacy is about, because our kids just don't, and I'm not going to say it's every teacher. I'm not going to say it's every school official, every healthcare worker, but it's a lot, enough, too many for me to be comfortable with.
One to spoil it. And I'm like, I just felt like when I heard my son, he says, the other teacher laughed. I said, they laughed? No one could tell that teacher that's wrong. Like, he said, they laughed, Mommy, and it hurt my feelings. And there was a time when my son couldn't tell me about his feelings. He couldn't tell me that it hurt or how it made him feel. And he has come a long, long way to that. And even if a child is on an assisted device, their voice needs to be heard. So we're here giving them their voice. We're here telling other parents what they need to do to advocate your IEP, your advocate. If you feel that your child is not getting the services, you can remove your child. There's so many services out there. For me, it was fighting for OPWDD services. My son was denied, even though he has autism and ID, intellectual disability. There was a mistake on the psychiatric evaluation, and I'm telling them this score is wrong. Oh, well, ma'am, I said, the score is wrong. The psychologist made an error. And I had to fight them to get the score corrected. And it's just a constant fight. So for me, what is your mission behind your t-shirt? Tell me your mission, because I love your t-shirt. I love this. Listen, I love your t-shirt. Not your average superhero. Oh my God. Yes, I love the shirt. Tell us your mission behind your shirt and what's next for you. I love
to send a message. I love shirts that have statements on them. So I was like, I want to make statements, and I want people to read my shirts and get an idea, some kind of awareness, an idea of what I'm going through. But I have a whole bunch of different shirts also that are autism related, neurodiversity related, and it's just to send a message, and to make people more aware, to make people think, even if you don't know about autism, well, what does that mean? You might want to go search something to become more aware. But yeah, to make statements.
Yes. You made a statement with this shirt. You made a statement with this shirt. We are the superheroes, and we are fighting for our heroes, and we're giving them voices. And I just thank you for this. I thank you for being a part of our journey. I mean, every box is personable to us. It is important that the person that we select to be a part of our subscription box, their voice is heard. And it was important for us to know our strength, because oftentimes we're fighting for our children. Behind the scenes, I tell my friends, I say, you don't know what we go through. Yes, our child has autism, and oftentimes, their voice is not being heard. It's like a constant fighting for our kids. We don't get a break. The 1 minute we're sitting there thinking, okay, everything is good, it's always something else. And I thank you for putting this out, that it's not just awareness, it's accepted, and oh my God, it's inclusion. Because our babies are going to get to adult stage and they need jobs. We need agencies to give our babies jobs. We need them to have an opportunity. They need to give them a chance. So we're fighting that autism doesn't end at 21. Services need to continue for these children.
Most definitely.
And where can we get your t-shirt?
My Etsy shop, www.etsy.com/shop/Black Autism Mom. The link is in my bio. And I occasionally do sales. I also do giveaways. And I want to thank you for making me a part of your Mother's Day box. That is amazing. It was an amazing opportunity. I'm so grateful.
This is our Mother's box. It's still here. You can get it in our T.A.S.K shop at Shopify. Her t-shirt is in our Mother's Day. It's still, for us, every day is Mother's Day. 365 days is Mother's
Absolutely.
Day. And every day is Autistic Awareness Day for us. So our Mother's Day box is there. It's still on our Shopify shop. And you can get her t-shirt. Her t-shirt was the t-shirt of the month. She's part of the t-shirt of the month. So you can get her t-shirt. And we just thank you. I thank you so much for spending time with us, sharing your story, sharing your vision, sharing your child with us, telling us about his story, and I thank you. I thank you for being a part of our journey. It's so important for me and for my family to hear your story. And I feel like, that's what we say. Every subscription box, there is a story behind the parent who's making something to bring awareness. And I just thank you so much for joining me. And
thank you. Thank you. Thank you for this. I appreciate it.
Oh, see, you did awesome. You did amazing.
Girl, I was nervous.
I
but it's
You
okay.
know, we as autistic moms, you know, we have to come out of our shells. For me, it was fighting for my son, and it
Yes.
became fighting for my community and fighting for other children and fighting for other parents because they need a voice. And it's for us to share our journey so other parents who are going through the initial stages, they're not able to go through, they're able to get those early intervention, they're able to get timely services, they're able to say, I'm seeing something, my doctor's not listening, but I have the right to go and rule it out. I have the right to get a second opinion. I have the right to change my school. I have the right for my school to follow my son's IEP and give them services. So I thank you for taking time and sitting down with me today. I thank you so much. And who knows, her other shirts might be in our cast box as well. So stay tuned because she has some wonderful shirts.
No,
But
thank
thank you.
you.
Enjoy your Memorial weekend.
Thank you. You
Thanks
too.
everyone for
Bye. Thank
joining us.
you.
Thank
Yes,
you.
thank you. Bye.
Bye.